Hello and welcome to this demo video for the TOIL tracker, that's time in lieu of leave tracker. I've actually been asked to make a number of these, all custom made, and the reason I haven't really done a standard version is because all the different people who have asked me for stuff have come with some crazy requests as far as what they wanted to do, and I didn't think that that was relevant for everyone. But then when I tried to make a custom one, a standard one, sorry, I realized that actually even the simplest one is actually quite tricky as far as monitoring what's going on. So I've tried to do a very basic one that lets you to monitor time in lieu of leave. But if you're looking at this going, it's great, but it doesn't quite do what we wanted to do. Do get in touch. Let's have a talk about a custom one. But this is really as simple as I could make it, but yet with as much flexibility as I think most people are going to need. So let me go through how it works. You don't have to do anything on this first page. We can jump straight into it. I just want to start off on the settings tab to get things set up. Each spreadsheet lasts for a year. Now, that doesn't mean you have to buy a new one each year. You can keep a copy and each year just create a new one. So do the starting month and the starting year so that you've got a 12-month period. This is just so that you don't collect a whole bunch of unnecessary data and just keep growing and growing and growing. So we use it for a year and then we start a new spreadsheet. Um, Outcome reason required. If you give it an outcome, so when, for example, someone requests leave or wants to take leave and management sign it off and decline it, do you want to insist on an outcome reason? If the answer is yes, then just tick this box. Otherwise, if you tick it, then it's gonna show up later on in yellow to ask for a reason. And if you want to insist on an expiry reason, then enter this, and it'll insist on an expiry. It'll insist on an expiry reason. Days for outcome. This means that if someone applies for leave on a certain day, how many days beyond that do you want to have it accepted or declined? So you can say how many days you actually want to go and accept or decline. There are some caveats here. So if someone's leaving or whatever, it pushes it, prioritizes it, etc. But this is just the general rule of thumb. Days to use leave, how many days when someone collects some extra time, so they work overtime and they get some extra time, how many days do you give them to actually use that leave up? If you don't give them a limit, just leave it blank. If you do give them a limit, put it in. The spreadsheet won't enforce that, but it will flag it up to you so that you can enforce it. Yellow alert to use, how many days within. So for example, what this one says is in 28 days, the time expires, but when there's 5 days to go, flag it up for yellow. And then so you've basically got 5 days of yellow warning before it gives you the final kind of decision for you to make. And even then, you don't have to make that decision. So if, for example, there's extenuating circumstances and you've said that person's got to that day and they've requested leave and you've declined it, and then you say, okay, well, because we declined your leave, we'll give you some extra days or some extra time to do that. You don't have to write the time off. In fact, the spreadsheet doesn't write off any time unless you specifically go in and say, this particular one, write it off. But these will warn you at those times. Maximum accrued hours. Do you let people actually get to a maximum? So do you say to people, well, once you've got 12 hours, you can't get any more? Again, the spreadsheet won't cut them off, but what it will do is it'll flag up to you so you know, okay, they're on 100% of the time. So when they come in with another request, you can actually go, well, hold on a second, you've gone over time, whatever the case might be. If they then say, well, they're going to take it, they're going to apply for leave the next day, a whole bunch, then you can go, okay, fair enough, accept it. But again, it just flags it up to you. And this 90% is just the percentage of the yellow alert. So when you get to 90% of the time, it flags up in yellow so that you're just aware that the person is getting to the maximum. So again, I've tried to make the spreadsheet not make any of those decisions final, but these just get it to flag it up to you. Tie up all loose ends before leaving. You can put up there, but just put in 7 days. You can put 0 if this isn't an issue for you. But what this does is it really just checks if someone's due to leave and they've got 7 days left. It just flags up all of the actions relating to there. So any management that have to come in and sign off or anything like that. It just flags it all up just sooner to kind of get that person finished and done with before all their transactions kind of up to date before they actually leave. Carry over data 1 year, carry over data more years. Do you want to actually carry over data? So in other words, if there's outstanding time from the previous year, do you want to go through the next year? Because you've set these times here, you can still take this over because someone may work overtime on the 31st, the last day of the last month, and then you do want to take it over. So if you just tick this box, it'll take over 1 year. This one here is if you want to take over more years. So in other words, if you take over from year one to year two, and then you say, well, I don't want anything that's from year one to go over into year three if they still haven't taken it. Even if you haven't set these, if you just uncheck that, then what that will do is any data that's carried over from 1 year to the next won't go over from that year to the following year. So you can kind of put a kill switch on it, as it were. These are reasons for accepting or declining. So management, you can pre-type up some reasons. You can override these reasons later on, but I just thought if you've got set reasons, it's usually easier because then you use HR. If you get to a certain period, you can say, well, let's have a look and let's do some further analysis on this data and what are the reasons people are giving. If they set reasons, it's far easier to actually calculate some reporting from that. So we can put some default reasons here for accepting or declining. This is accepting or declining both overtime worked and leave requested. So you can put some reasons in there. And then these are reasons for expiring time. So remember I said that if you get to a certain period and time comes up for expiry, you can then expire it. So you can put in some reasons. So for example, warned and not taken, or whatever other reasons you want to give. And again, you can select that later on for each time. So every time you expire some time, you can put a reason next to it. This just helps you to keep a record of stuff and why it was done and what have you, so that if it does come to the point where someone says, hang on, why do I have this much leave? What happened to that? You've got nice clean records, which I'll get to. So once you've set this one up, there are only really two red tabs, and by red tabs I mean the one in red which are data entry tabs. The first one's very simple. It's a staff. Get a new staff member, put their name in. Simple as that. Do you need a start date and an end date? No, you don't. The start date and end date, if they started prior to this year and they end after this year, you don't have to put this in. If you want to put it in, you can put it in. By all means, use it if you need that data. Brilliant. The only thing the spreadsheet's actually using is this end date. So if you actually say, if you're halfway through a year and say, well, this person is ending at the end of the week, and you pop the date in, that then triggers the spreadsheet to get all that stuff for them completed, and it doesn't take their name over to the next year. So the end date is important if they're ending within the dates that you've entered in the settings. So for example, here I've got in the video January 26 to December 2026, so 31st of December 2026 and 1st of January 2026. If they're starting between those dates, then ending between those dates, then I'll put the end date in, and that just helps the spreadsheet to wrap up. Otherwise, it doesn't require dates. And if you put dates in that are prior to that or post that, it does look at the end date. So for example, if you put that they ended 3 years ago, then it's going to say, well, you can remove them. So the end dates are more important, but the start dates, I can't recall if I've used them. They may just flag up some data things if you do put a start date in, but the start dates aren't as important. And if they were here at the beginning of this year, then you can just leave that blank. But again, if you want to fill it in, you can. The sorter column, because of all of these green columns, you can't sort by any of these green columns. And as I mentioned about removing, I do have a remove column. So if this turns into an X, what that means is if this shows an X, then it means that this person hasn't got any information on here and they've left prior to this year starting, so they can be removed. So if you want to sort by any of these green columns at any stage, maybe you want to sort by the outstanding balance or whatever, you can come to whichever green column you want, copy, paste values under sorter, and then sort the lowest to highest or whatever. Use the sort at the top to sort the data. Once you've sorted, then just come back here again and just clear that. So it's just a temporary column to paste any of this data so that you can sort, then you can clear it out and you're back where you were again. So it's really just to help you to sort these columns. All of these overtime work, leave due work, approved, pending totals, all these totals will make sense to you. They're all time totals, how many hours have expired, etc. So you can see all the totals for each person, and all of that will update according to what you enter on the toil entries tab, which we'll get to. So this is all formulated, locked down. So all you're really entering is this red stuff here and potentially using the gray sorter column. When you come to the year end, you can see here the blue section. There are two staff they're going to copy. So when you come to the new year and you open up a new spreadsheet for the next year, you can copy the blue from year one, copy that, and then paste values into the red section of year two. So this is the next spreadsheet. So what that will do is this underneath this blue are hidden all of the staff members that are actually going to go through to the next year. So you can copy and paste value and that will bring up all your staff. So just as an indication, if the staff member was actually leaving before the end of the year, so if we said that they're leaving on the 31st of December 2026, then you can see there's only one row of blue because they're not actually going through to the next year because they're not going to be working there. So that's just what that is. Rather than you pasting everybody across and then trying to clear people out and all the rest of it, if you just come copy the blue, paste values into the next year's spreadsheet, that transfers all of your staff that are relevant at the time across to the next year. So, but that you only do at the end of the year when you're ready to start the new spreadsheet. While we're busy working with this here, toil entries. This is the bit where you actually fill it in. It looks a bit confusing, but there's obviously lots of criteria that you want to track. So the first section, which is from here across to here, is your initial request. From here to here is your management, and from here to here is potential HR involvement if hours have to expire. So what the person would do if they came in today, you click on the drop down list, it gives you today's date and it works backwards, gives you a week's worth of date. If you're putting stuff in that was done a month ago, you can just type the date in, that's fine. But I've put these in here just for easy selection. So if you say, well, today, it shows you the ones that it wants you to fill in. Who was the staff? This is staff this time. What are they trying to do? Are you adding overtime worked? Or are you adding leave requested? If they've worked an hour overtime, then you just put in 1 hour over here and you see it doesn't ask you for that because it knows it's overtime. If you did put in both, it flags up in red telling you that's not right. You've got to remove one and do that. You don't want any red on here. So now we've got that in. The request notes, these are optional, but quite useful. I know people may not want to necessarily tell you why they want the time off because it possibly is none of your business, but if there is something that you could put in there, it does make it helpful because it just reminds you later on when you're looking at the report as to, you know, if they're saying, well, hang on, what happened there? When did it, why did it, what happened here? Why did I take an hour off there? When did I work overtime here? If you've got a note that just briefly explains it, it obviously does help to remind people as to what it was about. But I get that some people may not want to give that, so this might be blank, and that's fine. You don't have to fill it in. Date of leave, you don't have to fill in the date of leave because they're not actually requesting it, they've taken it. If they were in fact wanting leave, let's try that one out. If you say, well, there's 1 hour of wanting leave, then you do need to put the date in that they actually want to take that leave because that isn't necessarily going to be on the date that they request. In fact, it's usually probably not. So if they said, well, we want to take the leave on the 25th of April, um, this box, you tick that box if you actually either if you're going to pay them for that leave or if they've asked for payment. So if that leave isn't actually time that they're taking, but they actually go, well, can I get paid for that? I know this isn't part of the whole time in lieu of leave, but most people I've had have requested it. Well, what if it gets paid? You don't want to pay them for the leave and have them be able to take it off. So if they do get paid for the leave, then you just tick that off because then this knows that the spreadsheet doesn't track the paid leave as far as the time is concerned. It keeps, I mean, it monitors it, but it doesn't really give you a report on it as to what you need to be paying or the rest of it. That would be up to you to pay that. But at least then what it does is it doesn't actually subtract that hour from the person's kitty or pot, as it were. Well, sorry, it does subtract the hour from the pot, but yeah, it just monitors it as paid. approved, this is now for management. So from this column onwards is for management. Once you fill this in, the management then to come through. If the management wait too long and it gets beyond the time that they've been allocated, this will turn yellow to remind them that you need to that they need to get on and approve that. And they can either they just have to select the day that which is basically got today's date in the drop down list. They either select approved or declined. So if they select declined, then it grays it out and it doesn't include that. And this time that they requested goes back into their kitty and it's all fine. Then they know this one's been declined. If they approve it, then it's proved and it's gone through. And if you've ticked the reason for the reason for the decision is required in the settings, and this will turn yellow because you haven't ticked it, it doesn't actually need a reason for decision. I'll show you how that works. If we went back here and we said the outcome reason is required, then when you go back to your TOIL, it now actually asks you for that. Let me just go back again to the settings and take that off for now. Um, So yeah, you can select done or justified, too busy that day, whatever the case might be. Um, and that's it. You've now done the request, you've authorized it, it's marked it off, it's gone, it's done all the updates that it needs to do. The only other thing left, I haven't got any on here, but what would happen is if you had an older worked overtime, for example, and that's now reached the end of its time and it needs to be expired. You'll see these cells here that are green. This has got 14 days and this has got 15 days before it expires. So when something gets into the yellow range, these will turn yellow to warn you that they're coming up. And when they go beyond the days, they'll actually turn red to tell you that they've gone, that they're now too old. And when these turn red, what will happen is this column here will turn a very light yellow, like this kind of shade of yellow. And what it'll do is it will say, are you going to expire these hours? Now, because of the way the spreadsheet works, they may work 2 hours and then they work 2 hours. And then they actually take, for example, 3 hours. So what you may actually end up with is a time that they worked, for example, here they worked 4 hours. If they then took 3 hours later on, this 4 hours there might only be 1 hour worth of that's actually outstanding. Because the way that the spreadsheet works is when they actually request leave, it takes it from the oldest overtimes worked and it works its way through. So you may have a situation where although they worked 4 hours overtime, there's only an hour outstanding. So when you click on this cell, what it will do is at the moment it gives you nothing because there isn't anything there. But if there was something there and this cell had turned red, you clicked on that, it may say, for example, an hour, it might say 2 hours, whatever. So what that means is there's an hour outstanding of those 4 hours. Now, again, you can leave that and you can give them some grace and you can not click it and you can go, fine, just, it's alerted you. You can warn them, say, please take this leave. If they don't listen and they don't, or whatever the case might be, and you think, forget it, it's now going to be expired, then you just simply go and select the time that's in there. And again, it might be 1 hour, it might be 2 hours, it might be the full 4 hours. Select it, and then that will then, if you want to put a reason, if you've ticked it off to ask for that, it'll ask for it to select it. Otherwise, enter a reason or leave it blank if you prefer. But this will then mean that those hours have now expired, which means they can't actually take them and it'll come off of their total. And that's it. Each row, you just continue each row, add in as it comes, add it in one below the other. And it'll monitor the approved, declined, pending, etc. And yeah, so this sheet also has the carried over data. This one is slightly more confusing. There's all sorts of calculations that are going on to here. So, for example, as I said, you may only have an hour left of this hour, and there's only an hour of that carries over. So, what you do at the end of the year, same story as before. Once you've fixed all of this up and this is all finished, and you go, that's up to date, do a file save an archive file, then simply copy this data here and open up the new spreadsheet and come under this the first red header, right click and paste values. Now remember, it's paste values, it's not normal paste. Normal paste will paste the blue formatting and cover up your spreadsheet and lock it down, and it'll be ruined. So you want to do paste values. Paste values means just paste the data in, don't mess with the formatting. That's the best one. You should always use paste values for the spreadsheet in every single aspect whenever you're pasting. Paste values, and that will then give you all the relevant uh, entries that are relevant for the start of the next year. So they carry their balance over in accordance with all of your settings. So rather than you trying to manipulate this at the end of the year, if you just copy the blue patch, paste values underneath, it'll give you your starting data for the next year, and you'll be up to date, ready to start with this for the next year, and you can carry on where you left off, effectively then clearing out all the stuff that whenever they've worked, earned overtime, taken off leave, and it's balanced, it then just falls away. The last tabs, the two green tabs, the first one's a reporting tab, the staff report. If you come here and just simply select which staff member you want to see, this all populates for them. It pulls up all of their requests. You'll see these columns. I've removed some of the columns. So here, for example, the approved or declined, instead of having two columns, is just one because you're only ever going to use one. I've kept these separate so that you can see at a glance which is worked and which one is requested. But these ones I've combined. I've taken out a few of the other columns, but this shows you all of the transactions. It also shows you these status are okay. So what this means is that this time is not going to expire. And here you can see that there's 1.5 hours left of that. So this worked overtime, even though they worked 3, they've already used 1.5 hours. So there's 1.5 hours overtime left here and 1 hour left over there. So you can kind of see what's still outstanding here as far as their time. So now that they know they've used 1.5 hours of this time already, they've got 1 hour, 1.5 hours left. And those 1.5 and 1 hour is what makes up the 2.5 hours balance. You can see the hours used, hours added, net hours carried over, percentage of the cap used, current hours to carry over. What this means is, as the spreadsheet set, 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours are going to be carried over to the next year, if this was at the end of the year. So this is pretty much irrelevant during the year, but at the end of the year, you can look at that to see how many hours are going to be carried over. Here you can see how many are okay, how many are near the limit, overdue, cancelled. This refers to the expiry time that we set. So you can see some are near the expiry limit, some are overdue, so you really should have a decision made, and some actually have been cancelled. So this one here, you can also say this is a PDF. It's a one-sheet PDF. I think there are 125 rows. If you've got too much data, what you can do is you can come here, it'll say page 1 of 1, and you can change that to 2, and it'll show you page 2. So you can just toggle through the pages. But you can save these as PDFs, save them in the client file, give them to the not client file, staff file, give them to the staff. So if someone queries, well, how did you get to this amount? You can show them exactly what's gone on over the course of the year. If there were stuff that were carried over from last year and they questioned it, then you should have saved last year's spreadsheet when you started this year, so you can go back to last year and you can pick up and see exactly what's going on. So you've got a kind of a record, as it were, of all of the different transactions. The last sheet is a dashboard. There's nothing to update on here. You can't update anything. This is just for you as management to have a look at. It gives you the totals, hours taken, hours expired, hours paid out, etc. The section at the top here, you'll see red and yellow alerts when there's data that you need to enter on other pages. It'll flag up. And there are a few here that will give you some text and tell you what they're about. Like, for example, management needs to make a decision, something's turned yellow, they need to make a decision, etc. These will flag up here as well. Here you can see a breakdown of time added, and here you can see a breakdown of time used, how many pending, how many approved, how many declined, what's the percentage, what are those as hours. And these graphs represent the data that's at the top here, so you can see at a glance. Any yellow one here needs to basically be approved. Any red has been declined. Or the green has already been approved. And last but not least, there's a time added, used, and lost per month. You can see the number of hours are carried over from last year. There's 0 because we didn't do any. Number of entries, 0 because we didn't do any. And then what it does is it shows you how much time was used each month, how much time was paid each month. And then this line graph shows you how much time was actually added each month. So there's obviously a zero because it's dropped down because we haven't got there yet. But as we get to those dates, that should pick up and we can see how much time is added. This is just as an overview for you because you may be looking going, well, certain months people tend to want to take leave, other months people want to accumulate leave, and you can spot trends and things here as you go along. It's just a little graph for you to have a look and see what's going on overall. So yeah, I hope that that makes sense. Just remember to do the copy and paste values for the data carried over for the two different tabs at the end of the year. But make sure you update the previous spreadsheet completely before transferring data over because you want it to be as correct as possible. TOIL entries, add them in stages as required. Enter any information that's required. Enter any information that any cells that turn yellow. Settings, get these sets up first. I hope all of those make sense as to what they are. Go back and watch it again and see if it makes sense. And the staff report should then be correct as of your TOIL entries tab. You just need to select which staff you want to see, and the dashboard will update to keep you informed. So if that helps you, all the best. As I said at the beginning, if you're looking at this going, this is great, but I want something that does more or does less or does something different, please do get in touch and we can chat about a custom version. But if the standard version does it for you, then great. I wish you all the best. Thank you very much and goodbye.